Here are scenes from the Desert Song, or perhaps from that other saga of the desert, Beau Geste. Here, at any rate, is storybook stuff that all looks a step or two away from modern reality. Believe it or not, this is a camel corps that actually exists. The cavalry of a desert country that goes out and fights in frontier skirmishes just as they used to do in old movies. This is the Bedouin army of Jordan, the desert army that an Englishman, Glub Pasha, molded and trained. Jordan is a mistake, geologically speaking. The rocks have crumbled and shrunk so that the arid land is largely below sea level. There's no oil in this country and it's on no trade route. One wonders what the desert army is defending until you look closely at the men's faces. You see then that it is tradition and tribal heritage that they're guarding. A rough, romantic, unchanging way of nomadic life. A hard life that seems unrewarding, but a life that fills the tribesman with an obstinate pride. In the oil-producing countries of the Middle East, the camel is disappearing. The tribes go by lorry. But here, the old ways haven't changed since this really was the Holy Land. And see how handy a camel would be in a shooting incident. Any moment you expect to see Lawrence of Arabia riding out, or Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. The fort itself, with its sandstone bricks, looks like film set scenery. But those Bedouins aren't play acting. These are the elite of the desert warriors, men from famous fighting tribes, trusty through an unbreakable tradition, owing homage to their king. It is from them that the king picks his bodyguard. There's a film set flavor about the Circassian orderlies, and the king himself is a figure as romantic as his entourage. His Majesty the King of Jordan invites us to share the life of a busy monarch for a day. His grandfather, King Abdullah, was the first king of Jordan, a true Mohammedan who found himself ruler of Bible land. It is natural that his successor should give audience to one of the Christian bishops who administer the holy places in his domain, such places as Bethlehem, Jericho, Old Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives. But this is just the early morning start of a crowded day that began with the reading and signing of state papers and has to continue with a royal tour of villages where new irrigation schemes are underway. Mud hut villages crop up wherever there's the slightest welling up of waters. But King Hussein wants to modernize his country, so he keeps constantly in touch with his easygoing people, galvanizing them into action. Never has a sovereign been closer to his subjects or better loved. There are 2 million people in the country, which is about the size of Wales, mostly farming for a living in a land poor in resources, though rich enough in history to make tourism their biggest trade. But history is on the move. Modernization schemes are starting up everywhere, backed by the drive of this remarkable king. He is laying the foundation stone for a new school at Hebron, which is one of the world's most ancient townships. There's a heavy schedule ahead, but the royal route takes us along the shores of the Dead Sea, where there's a race course. So have a break and come with the king for a flutter on the favorite in the big race. If you've never been to this particular track, then you'll quite certainly never have seen a race meeting like this before. Let us go over and see if we can find the tote. Oh yes, it's a camel race we've come to see. Though they do, of course, race the most splendid Arab horses. But camel racing is a very different proposition, and the betting's heavy. If the favorite loses, a lot of people will get the hump. There's There's a lot of suspense about a camel race. It's a cat-and-mouse affair, with riders at first going slow and keeping together in a bunch, each one trying to judge the right moment to put in a burst of speed. There's only a furlong to go, and they're still hot spurting. As a race so far, it's laughable, but there's a lot at stake on it. Any moment now, we'll see them going flat out for the winning post. The favourites winning by a long neck. And now the race is on for the king. More villages to be visited and more foundation stones to be laid. More encouragement to be handed out. There's time for one more break at Aqaba, Jordan's one and only port on the Red Sea. They're making a popular holiday resort out of it, so the king sets them all a sporting example with water skis. He's as good on them as many professionals. Time isn't standing still. The king must be moving again in that relentless motorcade that takes him round the kingdom that he is determined to bring up to date as something that can find a prosperous place in this 20th century of speed.